Let's get after a daily trading recap for this Thursday, the 28th of October, 2021. Again, another little red day in the P&L, but taking trades that I felt that had substance and still maintaining that monthly goal that I had set for myself at the start of this month of trading on substance, not just chasing randomly. Maybe could have considered myself a little bit chasey with my entries, but I think the trades themselves were based on more uh, firm foundational patterns and trades that I believed I was recognizing, and still maintaining a small position size as of right now for all those trades because I feel my win rate is not where I want it to be, and just continuing to experiment and play around with it and understand that I'm not throwing massive dollar size around because of that fact that I still don't really know what I'm doing. It's still just experimentation every single day, continuing to evolve in myself and my ways as a trader. So loving every single day. Let's go over some housekeeping first before we get into the trades themselves. Keep it nice and brief and short. NASDAQ for dollar volume, still under $200 billion volume as of right now. We are just under half an hour after market close, and I see $217 billion volume. OTC markets, $2.2 billion volume. SPY coming just under all-time highs once again. I would expect we see another green day tomorrow, just basically betting on that same pattern, that data I've been talking about for a while, that I've been taking since the start of this year, that we routinely see time and time again in the past 2 weeks of trading here. Object in motion tends to stay in motion. If it's green, it tends to go green. If it's red, it tends to go red for the next few days. So we see the reversal here after these 2 red days we had the previous 2 trading days. So I would think we could absolutely tap to new all-time highs going into tomorrow on just little volume, not anything crazy, or like looking at this compared to trying to correlate this to a real stock, it'd just be this is a totally different atmosphere, right? But that's what we're in. That's the stock market. Was watching, main watches for me today were WTRH and WSRC, an OTC ticker. WTRH actually had news today as well. I'll get into the trade on there, the loss I took, but WSRC did not take a trade on because it dumped out of the open. Very nice first green day that I had yesterday, looking for a second day continuation. Needed a gap up above this 15-cent area was going to be key, obviously, just as a more roundish number. We got a gap up just below that where it opened, and then just smacking the bid right out of the gate. Not the most awesome dollar volume today either. Let's see what we specifically ended at today too on that one. Yeah, just closing now at 1.2 million dollar volume here. So nothing awesome or great to push this thing, but you don't really need that much in the OTC land for these things to run huge percentage moves. Never really got an opportunity. Kind of turned into a little panic dip buy opportunity that immediately shifted my focus as we get these huge, big-bodied red candle prints out of the gate of saying, okay, well, this thing could just panic. Let's wait for a nice percentage move opportunity. Let's just not jump in at any first turn that we start to see. So I see the move here starting to develop at 125-ish and going, no way, you're not turning here. And of course it tries a little bit and then pulls back even more, but then just grinded, slowly bled off the rest of the day. Just really nothingness, a lot of dojis here in the afternoon session. But unfortunate on that one that nothing really came of that trade. And WTRH got into, again, like I mentioned, it had a news catalyst this morning, which kind of disrupted a little bit of that pattern that I was looking for from yesterday that I had on the watch list today. Of course, this is just that one that's been lingering. This is one of those ones like the PROGs that just puts in the nice big percentage move on the day with volume, holds this range. It's very choppy and a bit of a wide range, and sometimes it doesn't look weak, but obviously, looking on intraday, it's respecting some amount of technical levels. Big spike up on this 26th. Was that? Yeah, 2 days ago that was. Then we get just these little in-betweener days that it had yesterday. It's about holding, again, just hovering around that VWAP line, looking kind of strong here, going above 2 at this point yesterday afternoon, but then pulling back, but still just not dead yet. So I think that what should be a very bearish signal for how high up it is on this multi-day little run here, it shouldn't be continuing to hold like it is for what crappy of a stock it actually is. So we're just looking for that maybe manipulated, maybe just it is a super high float as well too, so it's not like it's going to get a crazy short squeeze. But showing from the day on that 26th, if the opportunity comes, if it does start to press those key levels enough, it can have a pretty nice and pure green spike from off of any key levels. So just keeping those in mind. And as we got into pre-market, I was just looking for any amount of strength, looking for volume to come in. I was just having trouble continuing to maintain bidders on that to start smacking the ass, but we continue to build, bounce off of VWAP here And then we get to this nice 209 level and very nice entry. I should have gotten my full size position with 50 shares, but I was just kind of getting in with 40 at that point anyway, too, just saying still in that, the old mindset that I used to be in a few months ago where I'd say, oh, I think it's going to go up from here. I think the further trade could come in market hours. I want to save a potential full position size for market hours if it's going to come about. But otherwise, I want to ease a little bit of that FOMO by saying, man, I think this thing could rip here. I'm just going to take a little bit of small starter size. So a little bit of that mentality with this one where I got my entry here. And we got a very nice rip after that, all the way tapping 215, which I was very excited to see. Say, oh, okay, great. I was recognizing some amount of volume coming in, some amount of the ask being broken out, whatever trend lines is not the word, the tea leaves that were being shown there for a just nice move from that point. But then we dojied around that 215. We ended up pulling back further below my entry point and sank a little bit lower into the open, which is unfortunate. So then I ended up sizing up a little bit more into that 50 share position just to get me around at that $100 size that I feel I've been taking a lot on these more speculative trades. This one wasn't a hard pattern that I had charted for a long time or was very keyed in on. Not like a foundational pattern like a dip and ramp or a breakout, whatever. Just a kind of speculative, like just want to be in it almost kind of sense of this ticker is just, it's not going to panic off and completely die and just, it's so volatile. It's a one and done type of thing, but it's just it's what time is it going to happen? When and where it's just nobody knows. So you got to be continually watching it. And that's when you get continually beat down and wore out for the days, the type of time frame that it has to draw out in order for a potential move like this that happened on the 26th for that to happen. So just had that $50 position size. We get a little bit of a spike out of the open, but it fails to break that 215 high, pulls back to VWAP, and then it has a hard stuff under VWAP with big volume. Was this the biggest volume candle on the day? Pretty close. Yeah, that was actually for within that 1 minute that somebody was taking off their shares there. So I got Phil at the exact bottom once again. I don't remember if I had a stop in. I did actually have a stop in. That's why I was checking, because I'm in the mindset that I want to kind of get away from using these stops in. And with this one was a little bit different again because it's not that fast of a mover. And with my stop, I did get filled pretty much at the bottom here at 199-ish area. But even within the next minute, if I was trying to save myself a few cents, it wasn't like it was bouncing beautifully from there. And I would have had to wait a few more minutes to even save a few more cents off of what I got for my stop order. But again, just a tough. But that was obviously the end of the trade for me. If this was the point of no return, that, okay, this trade is just not happening. There is no legs for this one the rest of the day coming out of that. So just unfortunate. Recognize the pattern, knowing when to cut it and cutting it as it told me to for that one. PHUN was another one I traded. Fun. Having fun in the sun. Two different in and outs for me on this one. The first one was more of a sympathy, kind of a dip buy off of DWAC as well. So let's break down, of course, these are the sizes and entries and exits for both of them. But looking at the first one here, and I'll compare it to DWAC, let's get a good picture representation. So we get a hard little sell-off right out of the gate, but we've been in this kind of green day bounce-ish area on the daily. So looking in the back of my mind, I was watching this one for the past few days I'm looking for the longer-term time frame, a little bit of a bounce to maybe swing trade a little bit for the reclaim, potentially to $7 area. I'm thinking maybe it's somewhere close to $8 if it has the legs. But I think it's still dependent on how much it's involved with DWAC as well too. And I think today was a little bit of a separation from DWAC. DWAC was holding decently above VWAP this whole rest of the day, and it's not the same type of price action. They're not directly correlated, I think, at this point. But anyway, regardless, DWAC has the same type of dip right out of the gate. Doesn't have the second minute continuation of that move like PHUN did, but pretty much immediately reverses. We get a push above VWAP there. So I'm thinking, shoot, okay, fun is kind of lagging here. It's looking like it's turning at this point. I'll take a little stab at it, see if we get some amount of push back to VWAP, which will be a nice little trade, just a little tiny scalp. It's not like I'm looking for a home run in any way on this trade, but recognizing the sympathy play as it's there, the little morning dip out of the gate type of trade style on that one. set my risk. Learned a little bit from yesterday on KAVL, that dip and ripper, that if you recognize the pattern that is just not happening in the time frame that you think it's going to, or if you're just seeing those signs that are just saying, I don't feel confident in this one, and it's okay to get out. I've never really done that before because I've always been confident of, oh, if I'm in the trade, why would I not just stick around to see what happens? Because I don't have the experience or the really wisdom to say whether or not I'm correctly seeing the signs if the trade is actually going to happen. Whereas with this one, DWAC was looking a little weak, and it was just not having the oomph and strength. And I could feel at that point too that, man, it's just not following along directly with what DWAC is doing. So as it's pulling back closer, my entry price, I think I got just below my entry. Yeah, a cent below my entry for that one. So cut it, and very smartly cut it, because my risk was obviously going to be that low day and would have taken much larger loss there for, how do I want to word that, of taking the break-even trade when I knew the trade wasn't going to happen versus just sticking around and waiting to actually see it play out and taking a bigger loss than I could have on that one. So that was a great experience for that first trade at a little break-even, a little bit of a loss on that one. Same with both of these, sticking around that same $100 size for both of them, just because that's what I feel comfortable with where my win rate is at now, and that I'm not feeling as confident in any specific pattern that I'm so passionate and motivated about as of right now. That's where I'm at. The second trade was piggybacking off of that mentality I mentioned a little bit earlier, that I'm looking for that longer swingy style of trade for a potential 2-3 days type of move to get closer to that $7, maybe $8 level area. We were holding well above VWAP, bouncing pretty perfectly, and again, it was still following DWAC a little bit, but it just wasn't most awesome. And I'll mention as I go on to BKKT too with my entry, but I'm kind of buying the tops of all of these, and just my entries are not on par. Something needs to be done about that, and I think the mentality shift that I mentioned at the end of this too, what I'm going to go start watching a little bit more in the next few trading days here as well, is I need to be thinking of both perspectives of that, of where are the shorts looking at to get short this thing, and how are they playing this, because I'm buying pretty much where are those shorts. I'm buying the shares that these shorts are selling is a lot of the time when I do these, and sometimes they do end up working out, and I can just be blunt. I don't have to be so precise with my entries if the trade thesis is correct, because with this one, I was still maintaining the risk level. Price action was, pulled back a little bit below my entry. The obvious where I should be entering is as it's holding VWAP, and then you get volume coming in there. Okay, that's your entry key. As you get another little dip bottom here, another entry for a higher low to play this one, as it's still within that trend realm, but then you get the breaking of that trend, and it's still maintaining VWAP, and I can give it that little bit of room, maybe give it a little bit of slack to potentially go, because these things are just so choppy and volatile and do whatever they want to do at times, but still follow the same thesis that you're thinking along the same lines of. But as it broke VWAP here, that was obviously the great end for this chart. It tried to reclaim VWAP there, failed, fell off even lower. Again and again and again, it tried to reclaim VWAP, but still maintained under that line for the rest of the day. So just taking small paper cut losses and continuing to learn from them. I'm experimenting with who I am as a trader and getting these cobwebs out of the way of like these entries and exits. Now go on to BKKT, this NYSE ticker. The same thing of, looking at my entries, my buys are top ticking a lot of these candles. How and why I get to that point, and how it's possible that I can do that with routine, buy the tops of these. It's pretty funny to me, but for BKKT, the same type of thing, piggybacking off of FUN, of looking for a little bit more of a bounce, not necessarily a third day play, but this one is more of a legit real company because it is a NYSE ticker. He had that huge day. It was this Monday. After hours went even more insane. Pre-market did whatever, pulls back, has a hard pullback, tries to bounce a little bit yesterday, but it's holding well that after hours and the pre-market today. So looking for, if it's going to play out, draw out a little bit more in today, maybe go a little bit more in the after hours of today, but just didn't have it in the cards for now, or at least for today in the afternoon session, especially just sold off all the way into the close, stair stepping down. But keeping my size, again, small, within that $100 range. But just the entries are my main source of focus for now, of okay, why am I going to enter here? And why do and I can no longer get by with I'm just going to slowly size in because at some points with some tickers, yeah, this can absolutely be a good strategy. But for me, if I try to use that on every single ticker, every single time with every single different pattern, that's you can't do that. There's something wrong with that type of strategy. So I think I need to definitely take a step back from what I think I'm seeing and just, oh, I see it's going green here, and oh, we're putting in higher lows. Okay, we're above VWAP, we're above this little relative high. Oh, we're building with strength and volume here. Top ticket, right? And I can continue to fall into that trap because I know it's such a small position size that I don't feel so much pressure that I have to get it cutthroat exactly right there on the precise perfect dip bottom or the perfect low before it catapults up. But that's what I got to start doing. I'm building bad habits with this small position size that I should not be. So I think that's definitely going to be a main focus for me. Got a 3 share position size on this one. Anyway, thought we were going to pull back. I thought we were going to build again for a longer intraday style of play to close very nicely green on the day, but it just didn't happen. And I cut as it broke under VWAP. Tried again to pretend like it was holding VWAP and then fell back under. So just unfortunate again to see on that one. And last one I kind of want to mention CXDC, a hard tank here. Let's see if they got news. Just quickly, I don't even really want to mention this one. Looks like I have an 8K out here at the close. So yeah, something's definitely up with that one. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly mention it for the pattern I saw right out of the gate this morning for the huge crazy day it had. It was this Tuesday in the after hours again, not necessarily that it was market hours craziness, but we do have a little bit of halting and crazy style of price action on that Wednesday, yesterday, but just lackluster afternoon. But coming into today, potentially looking for a turn, call it a first green day, call it a third day play. Not really a third day play, but any amount of bounce on this one, and did not like it was gapping up from this pre-market, but right out of the gate as it's holding with a little bit of strength with very decent volume, now spiking to the upside of VWAP. Nice little 10% move here with it purely within the first 3, 4, 5 minutes as a nice little trade on that one. Just so sketchy. It's a Chinese company. Just don't want to be a part of it otherwise, but identifying that little pattern that I could have been a part of for that. That was all I wanted to mention for tickers today. Looking at METX for tomorrow, has a nice little run into the close here. Was it a news catalyst for the morning? They did have another news catalyst at 8:01 Eastern Standard Time. It looks like announcing strategic partnership with whoever going for blockchain and cryptocurrency mining business. So they're using those cryptocurrency buzzwords in that effect. Had that hard sell. I was watching this one a few days ago. It was just tough on this day that it just tanked right out of the gate. But now we're right back at those levels above 60. Looking at that $70 area as a key level. If it's going to certainly need the same amount of volume that we've been seeing these past few days if it wants to reclaim there. But that one is certainly on watch for the after hours here and the pre-market tomorrow. And then, like I was mentioning a little bit, alluding to in one of those earlier tickers, but not only do I want to start trading the SPY of within potentially futures that use a little bit of leverage and start using the data that I've been collecting to create an algorithmic style of trade on those ones, but man, for looking at like DBGI, how many times have we seen this again and again, that these huge, big pre-market percentage movers, they can do whatever they want to do within the first 2 hours of market open. But time and time again, these things in the afternoon session just they just die off. It's routine, I feel like, and of course, no other tickers come to mind to back that up, but I just feel that all of these things, it's become so much easier for me to, I've done it so many times. I've done it pretty much the whole summer, this whole start of fall, that I don't even look at the afternoon session. I don't even want to trade because nothing's moving crazily. There's no VWAP holder style of trades. There's just really no routinely successful trade that happens in the afternoon, in my opinion, and because these all just tend to die off and fade, and it doesn't have to be the most awesome percentage move like DBGI was today, but that's what turns me on is highly probable trades to happen, is that consistency of these things happening and just coming in every single day and saying, here are patterns that are happening a lot, and here's the win rate on those, and continuing to just throw out trades and trades and trades and trades on those and build up a crew, not only money bank on those ones, but also the knowledge bank of getting in and out on those style of trades with substance that are behind it. So tempted to just start preliminary watching right now. And of course, I'm probably getting in on the very back end of this trade, and it's going to reverse against me once I start going hard into it. But looking at just almost like not even waking up at like 10 o'clock, right? And not even waking up for the early market open, early pre-market. Just kind of strolling in, looking what's the biggest mover, waiting for that 12 Eastern Standard Time frame. Saying, sweet, short it, right? And with the same thing that I have to do with my morning jumper of, okay, how do you base your risk level? If you're just going to try to risk that high of day, I certainly wouldn't risk a high of day on this one, but potentially risking, okay, if I first see this thing around here, like 471 or 470, am I going to risk this regional high of 537 here? Is that enough? Do I think there's enough downside on that one for me to risk this? And the same thing of, do I think it's probable enough that it goes to the downside that I'm allowed to risk that and then continue to go on and do that for the next trade on the next day, do it over and over again, rinse and repeat? I think a lot of factors that are going into it, but I think it certainly could build a lot of probability that I've just been feeling, and DBGI was kind of the awakening one for me in that sense of, God, I'm just sick and tired of being fooled around in the morning session for just the crazy volatility and unpredictability that can be in that. Where's the high hit rate at? That's where I'm trying to go and continuing to try and sniff out. So experimentation all around. That's what this is, and that's the only way we can get better. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.